Let's just say, for the sake of argument, there was an issue regarding whether or not, when my client first came into contact with the officer, that he was being aggressive. Let's just say for a moment that was an issue. In other words, that my client pulled his arms out of his sleeves, the officer thought that he was going to do something to my client, then the officer started to defend himself, and there was a battle, let's say, who knows, that kind of thing. So when my client was taken to the ground, yes, take him to the ground, that is fine, assuming the officer's point of view for a moment. Once he's to the ground, when he is defenseless, and he's on the ground, and he's putting his hands up over his head, and the officer is repeatedly kicking him, at that time it is a clear abuse, excessive force, unnecessary to use force. It is clear and simple. And in some of the writings about this case, you can see that there was an acknowledgement that about 7 of the strikes, pursuant to Thomas Stark, 7 of those strikes that he lodged against my client were absolutely excessive force. So, what my client states is the officer, and you can see it when the officer comes in, he obviously does a beeline towards my client, okay? And his words were, when he went to my client, and it's swear words, so do with it what you like. Can no motherfucker use the washroom? So when the officer approaches my client, he says, can no motherfucker use the washroom? My client's hands are in his shirt, he was cold, and the officer approaches him, and you'll see if you look closely, his left hand goes to my client's body. But you have to watch closely. Comes up to him, he's swearing at him, his left hand comes up to him, he's defending himself, strike, down to the ground. There's no reason to do any of this right now, no reason at all, no matter whose point of view you got. That's no reason for that. It's completely subdued. So as I mentioned before, the threat in this kind of scenario is that other inmates could do something to the officer. What the officer should have done was say to him, put your hands behind your back. If there was an issue about something, you tell the inmate, put your hands behind your back, or come here, or go into the room with several officers. You don't go in the room alone. Okay. Let me just follow up with that last point. When you go in the room alone, these inmates, if they start to respond to what he does, these inmates can get injured, they can injure themselves, they can injure the officer, more officers come in, and now there's a brawl, and now you have a huge scenario. So it's an escalation that this officer could have caused, and that is why correctional officers are taught